Hello, everyone. I'm Ryan Garcia from Fireside Yankees, and today we have a very special guest, someone that we're hoping can stick around for a while and have this channel going forward. Have on this channel going forward. Nick Nielsen, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, it's good to be back with Empire Sports Media. Super excited to work with you, Ryan. I mean, you know your shit, man. Clearly, you're a big Yankees fan, but also you're not delusional like a lot of Yankees fans. So that's something I'm looking forward to. For a lot of people that maybe new listeners, I was the original host of Fireside Yankees a couple years ago with Dillard Barnhart. Everyone loves Dillard. Barn has spoken. And then I had some things that caused me to step away from Empire Sports Media for some time, but very happy to be back. Look forward to this season, especially. Like, I know a lot of Yankees fans are a bit down right now because of the way the offseason's gone, but there's got to be more moves that have to be made. And the team right now, it looks good. Like, we have a really good team. People are just spoiled. And they're like, we got to get Freeman. We got to get Correa and Story. All three of them where it's a bad offseason. And it's like, guys, relax. The team looks pretty good. But I'm excited to be back, 22 years old, go to the University of Utah. And then I'm a senior there right now. So this is what I love to do. And I've missed it a lot. So thank you for having me on, Ryan. And then, of course, shout out to Alex Wilson for letting me come back a little bit here. So I'm excited, man.
Yeah, and let's get right underway. I mean, this is going to be great. So let's kind of delve into what you've been talking about with the offseason. I think it's a great way to start. It's been a wild offseason, right? You know, we've seen guys like Correa sign last night. And Correa was someone who we thought was either going to be a Yankee or maybe a Cub or maybe go back to Houston. And then the Twins, who were kind of like, what are they doing all offseason? Come in and give him $105 million over 3 years. Not the 10-year deal you were looking at, not a Corey Seager type deal, or even Marcus Semien.
And not that 1 year deal that
right.
Ken had posted about, where he's like, maybe he signs a 1-year deal.
Yeah, now there is an opt-out, so he can technically make it a 1-year deal.
Gotcha.
But I guess the weird part is, you know, for a guy who's as talented and as great as he is, and he's 27 years old, was there really not a team willing to give him 10 years? And so, like, you know, got to bring into question the medical situation, right? I think
because he's got back issues, right?
Right, yeah, and he sent out his medicals to teams like the Yankees. He only was sending those medicals out to teams that were really interested. Mm-hmm. And if the Yankees were interested enough to get a medical and no longer felt the need to give him a 10-year deal and never felt intrigued enough to offer him one, you have to question what's going on with his medicals, because Seager's another guy who was injury prone, but he got 10 years. The medicals weren't bad on him. They seem to only have been really bad on Correa. So it's definitely really interesting to see that. So what are your first reactions on this signing?
Well, I mean, for me, it's like tough because it's like you said, like it's a really weird deal. And I think it was Talking Yanks or Talking Baseball where they like posted like the two guys like holding hands, like no idea what we're doing. And it was the Rockies and the Twins. And that's where I feel about this move, where it's like the Twins, they have a good team. They're not a bad team. They extended Buxton in the offseason as well. I believe they got that done before the lockout even began.
Yeah.
And Buxton, when he plays, Buxton is a 7-8 WAR potential player when he plays. But he's their Aaron Hicks. He's just a superstar Aaron Hicks. Like, he plays and then he's injured for 70 games. And you're like, oh yeah, I forgot Byron Buxton was really good this year, but then he got injured. So this move makes the Twins a lot better. And the deal is good. And for me, it's like Correa is, you know, he does have that ego. He did want to probably he wanted to probably have the highest AAV in baseball. Like, that's why he probably signed this deal. But if the Yankees had offered him, say, 4 for 130 or 140, I would be, if it like comes out and like breaks and everyone goes crazy over it, I would be shocked if that was on the table and he took this deal with the Twins, unless he really believes in something in Minnesota. Like, that's my thing. Like, this Twins team, they got better, obviously, with Correa, but are they going to make a run in the postseason? I highly doubt it. Their pitching is not good. And is this move, like, does it make them substantially better? Does it put them on the tier with the White Sox now in that division? And I'm like, no. So it's like, it's a good deal for the Twins. I'm happy for Twins fans because at least the GM and the ownership is doing something there and spending money and bringing in good talent. I mean, it's just weird, especially because they got Donaldson's $50 million off the books for 2 years to just bring in Correa for essentially like 72 million for 2 years. So it's like, it makes sense, but it's a weirder move, I guess. Not as weird as the Chris Bryant to the Rockies move, though. That move just, what the hell are you doing, Colorado?
Yeah, Colorado's just one of those franchises where you know when they make a move, it's usually a bad one, right? Like, at least it's Twins one, it's confusing, but it's Carlos Correa, right? Like, you can't, it's Carlos Correa, and, you know,
he's a star.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And to delve in a little bit to the Twins situation,
mm-hmm.
Twins are like, they're right around one of those teams that they're a 500 team probably, but they could be either a lot better or a lot worse. Kind of depends on how your young talent plays. I know they're targeting one of Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea. That could be a huge help. You look at a rotation of Sonny Gray and maybe Frankie Montas or Sean Manaea, and suddenly that top of the rotation looks pretty solid.
Yeah. And I like Sonny, but what if he also has injury issues as well?
Yeah.
Like, what if Sonny only pitches 130 innings for the Twins this year and he's their number one guy? Like, oof.
Right. And so you would love, for them at least, I mean, they would probably really want to have some sort of durability in there. Dylan Bundy they brought in, and he was someone who was really good in 2020, struggled in 2021, and is pretty injury prone. I like Joe Ryan, who they got in the deal for Nelson Cruz. He pitched pretty well when he came up. His ERA was at 4.05, but that's a 93 ERA minus. That's above average. And his SARA was a 3.42, struck out 30% of batters. So this is a guy that can maybe be a good starter on that rotation. But they do need the depth. Like not the depth, excuse me. They need the kind of the ace that guy's going to be there. 30 starts, strong ERA, strong peripherals, get a lot of strikeouts. And I think that could be if they can get a Frankie Montas, now you start talking about, okay, are the Twins maybe going to win that division? Can they make a push? I still going to have the White Sox at 1 just because I think they're really good. They're young. I
agree. Team. I think Eloy Jimenez is going to hit 40 home runs this year. I mean, it's got to happen. Like, he's been I believe 2-3 years in the league. 2.5 maybe. It's like, it's got to happen at some point where he's healthy and he's playing every day and he hits 40 home runs. Like, right? Like, it's just destined. Like, Eloy Jimenez is a freak. Dude,
his power is incredible. And then Luis Robert too. I mean, that's a guy who, I mean, good God, he has all the tools, right? He can hammer the ball. He can field very well. I mean, he's a phenomenal player.
He's a 30-30 player.
Yeah, easily. And that's the type of guy, that you look at and you say, once he's going, once he's healthy, once he's in a prime, once everything's clicking, this is the guy who's going to potentially win an MVP.
Exactly. Because they also have like Yohan Moncada. Like, and the White Sox pitching is still, in my opinion, substantially better than the Twins. Oh, and their bullpen is absurd. Like the White Sox and the Braves, in my opinion, have the two best bullpens in baseball. I think the Reds had one of the better ones, and then they got rid of Amir Garrett for Mike Minor, and that I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense. But you look at that White Sox team and how they're constructed. They're probably looking at the Correa deal to the Twins like, okay, damn, like that's a good signing. Like he's a great baseball player. Now we got to play Carlos Correa. What is it, like 15, 17 times a year for that division? But they also have Javier Baez and co that went to the Detroit Tigers. I still think the Royals make moves. I mean, I think the Royals have a good team. I love Nicky Lopez. Like, that's why when we got Isiah Kiner-Falefa, especially IKF, or falafel, as I've seen some people calling him. I love it, dude. Isaiah's the man. I'm so happy that he was like a bleacher creature when he was a kid. And like, this is like a legitimate dream of his, I bet. So that's super cool. But I like Isiah Kiner-Falefa because if you look at his peripherals, he's very similar to Nicky Lopez. And as you know, last year, Nicky Lopez broke out in a huge way. And he was, I believe, I don't know if he won the Gold Glove, but he was a Gold Glove caliber second baseman and shortstop. Like, he wasn't, like, he could play both. And now the way that the Royals team's kind of being constructed, it's like, I don't know exactly where they're going to play Nicky Lopez this year. Maybe they play him at second. Maybe they play him at short. It seems like they're committed to Mondesi at third. But I look at Isiah Kiner-Falefa, and I'm like, if sure, he's only going to walk like 4%, 5% of the time. Like, he's the only hitter in the Yankees lineup right now, aside from the catcher, that has a walk rate less than 10%. Like, this team is very disciplined. We're going to see a lot of pitches. But Kiner-Falefa, he doesn't strike out either. He's going to like strike out like 12% of the time. And his 175 hits last year would have been the most in the team. Like, this team does not put the ball in play a lot. They hit a lot of home runs, they slug, they take a lot of walks, and they strike out a lot. Like, that's what everyone was hating about this Yankees team. But Kiner-Falefa brings a little bit of balance to the team. And he brings a little bit of that, you know, like that passion and that edge, similar to Donaldson. We'll talk about Donaldson more in the episode here. But I guess my thing is like that AL Central is a really weird division now, because like there are stars all over the division. Like, every team has a couple of really good players. And I think the Twins offense is probably the best, maybe the White Sox, but their pitching is not even top 3.
Right. I'd say you could argue their pitching is maybe the worst in the division. Yeah. Like it's not, I mean, I would say the Royals are probably worse. I don't really see anything in the Royals
starting is just tough, but their bullpen isn't bad. Like, they have
their bullpen's got
decently good bullpen that they can build around, especially with Amir Garrett coming over, and they shed Mike Minor's contract. Like, Royals have had a pretty good offseason. If I was a Royals fan, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, maybe if the Royals can, like, the Royals are still interested in Frankie Montas. I mean, they got Zach Greinke. He's a solid starter.
I love
And
that.
Greinke's just a cool guy. Like, he's always been one of those interesting guys. Like, he's got his quirks, and that's always made him someone I've
Yeah.
really liked. He's a solid starter, so maybe the Royals have something going there. But that's going to be an interesting division for sure. And I think one thing we're seeing though is as interesting as all these divisions are, it felt like on the table was the chance for the Yankees to really go out and just steal that ability to become the best team in the American League by a pretty decent margin. The Blue Jays have gotten better, but they've also lost a lot. Losing Robbie Ray and Marcus Semien, adding Kevin Gausman, adding different guys into that lineup.
Yeah, they extended Barrios as well.
Right.
Last year, basically, I will say this: like when Barrios got traded, real quickly, when he got traded, I remember looking at the splits and comparisons. Jordan Montgomery was better at the moment when Jose Barrios got traded, and everyone talks about Jose Barrios as an ace and like 90% of rotations he goes to, and yet Montgomery, a lot of people are like, "Oh, he's a 3, he's a 4." I'm like, Montgomery deserves more respect, and I think they overpaid for Barrios, but that team's really good, like you said. Yeah, sorry, continue. Yeah.
No, you're all good, and I mean I agree with you on that. As good as guys like Barrios, I don't think the gap between Barrios and a guy like Montgomery is massive. I think really in per rate stats is more in the volume. Like I think Barrios is more of a lock to pitch, let's say 200 innings in a season. I think that's where a lot of his value comes from. And I do like they have guys like who are pretty good pitchers, right? Hyun-Jin Ryu's guy who he's not going to be great on a per rate basis, but he'll put up a strong amount of volume. He'll start 30 games. Kikuchi is a question mark, but
he's like Stripling to me, He's like a bridge guy.
And apparently Kikuchi was hitting 100 in camp.
How is Kikuchi throwing 100 now?
Maybe whatever they figured out, if they figured something out, that could change. Yeah, that could change a lot.
And what does that team do with Nate Pearson? Like, didn't they use him in the pen last year and it just wasn't a good work? It like wasn't a good fit before he got injured? They used him in
the pen because he was just so injury prone. They just couldn't. Yeah. And I know he had I think he had a strong finish of the season. Understand. He had a strong end to the season. He started off rough and then ended out pretty well.
Gotcha.
But I mean, that Blue Jays team, it's a pretty good team, obviously.
Yeah,
and I think right now, I think they're the best team in the American League East. But the Yankees, I think, really left on the table the opportunity to say, hey, let's go get that big time shortstop. Let's go get a big time first baseman, and let's go win the World Series.
Yeah.
And you see it. I know a lot of people say, well, the Yankees don't necessarily need starting pitching, and I think the Yankees' rotation and their bullpen's pretty good. But the Dodgers didn't need Freddie Freeman. They had Gavin Lux to throw at second base, and they still got him, and they still gave up a ton of money to get him. They didn't need Trey Turner per se, but they still went out and got him.
They didn't need Mookie. They didn't need that's what the big teams do. Like even like 2010, 2011, 2012 Yankees. Like a lot of people look at those as the dark times for the Yankees because the teams were out there were a lot of old guys with bad contracts that were not very great, but the Yankees were still paying and getting those guys and still trying to win. Now it seems like the team, and this is what I'll say, like Michael Kay went off on his on the Michael Kay show the other day about it, where he's like, I hate that the narrative that the Yankees don't spend money. The Yankees spend a lot of money. It's just they don't spend as much as you'd expect them to, and they don't spend it in the right ways. So it's like if you look at the Yankees payroll, I believe it's like 255 million or something around that mark, and you take away Stanton, Cole, and then now Donaldson's deal. And that payroll is halved basically. So it's like the team is really good. I just don't know if we're as good as the Blue Jays, like you're saying. People are saying the Yankees are the fourth best team in the AL East are a bunch of morons. Like I have no idea how you can possibly look at Boston in a rotation that features Michael Wacha, Nick Pivetta, Rich Hill, Tanner Houck, who can't even throw 5 innings, and Chris Sale, who's already injured. And here's I love Nasty Nate. He was a great Yankee, always threw literally one gem and then was terrible for like 4 games in a row. But gotta like Nate Eovaldi. But I don't know if he's gonna be as good as he was last year. Last year was a really, really good for Nate Eovaldi. So they're basically relying on him to throw 180 innings this year. That's for sure. Because that Red Sox rotation is like a bunch of like has-beens that they hope can get something out of him. Rich Hill's good, but he's 39.
Right.
So people saying Boston are better than the Yankees, I don't get it. It's just like it could be trolling, it could be genuine like delusion. I don't know. They could go see a psych, like someone to talk about if they genuinely believe that. But this Yankees team is really good, and I still think our offense is about as good as the Blue Jays, and I think our pitching can be about as good as the Blue Jays. Like I think us and the Blue Jays this year are going to be literally jockeying for that number 1 seed in the division the entire year.
Yeah, and
I don't want to. I just don't believe in their offense. Like Lowe's good. Meadows, they're trying to shop. Wander is really good.
Yeah, I think Wander's phenomenal. But I will say with the Rays, they do have one asset that most teams can't really rely on, and that's their ability to just call some guy up who's a solid pro. Like they just have so many of those guys. Yeah, and they can call someone up and just
their farm is incredibly deep.
Yeah, and it's like they always have guys every single year that can come up and be ready. So they always have that asset, and they're also really good at optimizing talent when it comes to platooning or anything like that. So I will say that, I don't think the Rays are per se the AL East favorites. I do like the Blue Jays a little bit more than them.
Same.
But the Rays could win a division. I wouldn't be shocked, right?
Sure, yeah. Be shocked about that. And I mean, and they just also are like master finessers. Like the fact that they were able to, get Shane Baz, or is it Shane Baz? I don't know. I know his Instagram handle is the Wizard of Baz. So that's why I believe it's Baz. Because why else would you make it the Wizard of Baz? That just doesn't make sense. So I feel like it's Baz. But they got him, and then I believe they got Glasnow. And did they also get McKay in the deal for Archer?
No, it was Meadows, Glasnow, and
And then and Baz. Yeah. So that's what it was for Archer. And then Archer went to Pittsburgh, and that was. And then he just went back to the Rays like 2.5 years later for like a minor league deal they brought him on. And it's like, well, so the Rays not only got their guy back, one of their fan favorites that obviously wasn't going to really contribute a ton, but they also got like the entire Pirates, like top half of their prospect system at the time. And now you look at the Pirates and you're like, you guys really could use an ace in Tyler Glasnow or an elite hitter in Austin Meadows or Shane Baz
is like on the cusp of becoming an ace. Like that dude has disgusting stuff. I think that guy's a phenomenal pitcher.
Yeah, he's gonna be elite, and he's only like what, like 20, 21. Like he's gonna be.
Yeah, really he's a young guy, and this is kind of where like the Yankees' issues lie. It's not as much the roster. It's just that everyone in their division is so good. Like when you look at the best teams in the American League, Astros, White Sox, Mariners might be creeping up there, and everyone else, it's in the Yankees division. It's the Red Sox, it's the Blue Jays, it's the Rays. Now, I wouldn't say the Red Sox are as good as a team like the Astros, the White Sox. They still got things they need to do, but
they just have a lot of holes. That's what I'm saying with the Red Sox. I'm like,
but if that's like your fourth best opponent I guess the Yankees don't play themselves, so out of 4 teams, that's your third best opponent in your division, right? Like you're at a pretty big disadvantage compared to other teams because the White Sox third best opponent is maybe the Tigers, and the Tigers.
I'd say probably the Royals. Because I think it's tough because I think the Tigers, Royals, and Twins are honestly, and people can come at me for saying this if they so wish. I think the Tigers, Royals, and Twins, even with Correa going to the Twins, I think all 3 of those teams are about the same.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. Like they're not strong enough teams to make you go.
No.
When we play them, 17 times a year or however many times you play them, we're gonna be gritting and grinding to get these wins, right? It's not like the Yankees NFL.
In the AL East.
Yeah, like in the NFL, you'll see you'll play like your fourth place rival, and they're pretty bad. But when you play them, they play a lot better because it's a divisional game. You don't really see that over 17 games or 19 games, however long it is over a season series. Houston or Seattle gets the advantage of playing a Texas team that is strong, yes, but doesn't have a strong rotation. Or an Angels team. Yeah, an Angels team that's always kind of been meh. Or an Oakland team that is blown up completely.
Yeah, but it's Oakland. So the one thing I will say, everyone, this happens every 3 years with Oakland. When I blow it up, but here's my thing: Oakland this year, they're gonna like run out like a lineup of a bunch of prospects and guys, and like Seth Brown this year is gonna have 45 home runs, and the A's will win 90 games. It's just written in the stars. I don't know what it is, but somehow Oakland is always competitive. Like even last year, like they're like until like they like really kind of fell off for that period and like kind of collapsed a bit at the end there. Oakland was a really good team, and that was with Matt Chapman batting like 200 the entire season. So like I love Chapman, by the way. I wish he didn't go to the Blue Jays. It sucks. But I think Donaldson's better than Chapman. I think Donaldson's the best third baseman in the division right now. People can again come at me for that. We'll talk more about Donaldson in a little bit because I'm a huge Donaldson fan. I hate him when he's not on the Yankees, but the moment we traded for him, I'm like, hell yes, thank you. When he was on the Blue Jays with Bautista and Tulo and those guys during that like 2015, 16, 17 era, I hated playing them because Josh Donaldson, he's just smug, and I'm like, you suck. And now he's on our team. I'm like, let's go, dude. Josh Donaldson's the man. And he pimped a home run today, so that was sick.
Yeah, and Donaldson, man, Donaldson's one of those hitters where he's incredible power-wise, right? Like his exit velocity was 4th in exit velocity last year. He's right there with guys like Stanton and Judge. Like the only guys ahead of him were Judge, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and Stanton in that order, which is incredible. The Yankees' biggest thing last year was they couldn't hit for enough power, right? They really couldn't. They just couldn't drive in enough runs, and a lot of it was due to a lot of guys taking steps back offensively, especially power-wise. LeMahieu, Glaber were like the biggest culprits of that. And you suddenly
even Gio.
it's Gio too. And you take a guy like Gio out the lineup and put Josh Donaldson in there. Good God, I mean, I think
crazy.
And we traded Luke Voit for Justin. I think it's Lang or Lane.
Yeah, Justin Lang.
Lang guy who throws 100. Slots in as the Yankees' number 20 prospect.
And what did you say his what'd you say the RPM on his fastball was? 2,200 or something?
I think it was 2,500 on the whatever.
That's
on the
absurd.
video he posted.
Like
that's a lot of sink.
That's around like Jonathan Loaizaga has that on his fastball as well, or his curveball. Like he
reminds me of
that's nuts, dude. I like that deal. Like, and you convinced me to like the deal. I will say, because after it happened, I remember texting you and I was like, dude, what the hell is Cashman doing? Like, we gave up Voit for nothing. And then I thought about it more. I'm like, it didn't help that for literally the past 4 months, even when there's no baseball, everyone knew the Yankees were going to get rid of Luke Voit. So his value was basically nothing. And for us to get Lang, who's a top 10 prospect in the Padres system, I think it was a win for both teams. Like, Voit was not going to play, like, at all. He's not good at defense either. So we couldn't just throw him out at first and say he's going to be like a great player. And then his like sprint speed percentile, his base running, all of that was not good. I love Luke Voit. He's a beast. He embodied that like New York culture, like savages in the box, like that's what you wanted to see from a player, especially for Voit that came over in a trade. And like a lot of guys are like, oh, he's got the upside, but never really showed everything. Luke Voigt's a career 870 or 880 OPS hitter in the major leagues. Like, that dude's a beast. So I'm happy he's off to a better situation. Will actually get at bats now because I love Luke. But I also see this as a good move because you also mentioned it cleared up a 40-man spot. And we also shed $5-6 million in payroll, which isn't a lot, but I mean, I don't know, dude. It's losing Voit and replacing him with Rizzo is basically what we did midway through the season last year. And people were all about it when we did it. And then Rizzo struggled a bit. And John Boy and them talk about it a lot, where he hit a lot of those foul ball home runs that were like barely foul balls and stuff. If he just tweaks a little bit of that, Anthony Rizzo could be another 260 hitter, 265 hitter, in my opinion, with 26, 30 home runs. And he's a lefty, and he sees a lot of pitches, and he doesn't strike out. So it's like having that in the team anywhere. Any team getting Anthony Rizzo would be really hyped about it. It's just we're the Yankees and we're Yankees fans, so we're like, oh, Freeman was on the board. We could have gotten Freeman, especially seeing what he went for. But I don't know, dude. I like Rizzo. So I mean, I'm sad to see Luke Voit go, but I think when everyone was saying, oh, Voit for Lamet, like I was even on that little delusional side for a bit, and that was just simply not possible.
Yeah, look, I'm Dominican, so I mean, like, I would have loved to have Lamet. That's the guy who I want on the Dominican World Baseball.
His stuff is so good too. Like,
he's just injury prone. It's
disgustingly good.
It's unfortunate he's injury prone. It's basically the only downside to him, which I get is a huge downside. But
because he's like 28 now as well. Like, I remember when he came up a couple years ago. Yeah, I remember when he came up a couple years ago as a huge prospect. This guy could throw 100, tons of movement, and then he's now 2 or 3 seasons in a row now where he's just been injured each season.
Yeah. And, when it comes to Rizzo as well, I think ultimately, yes, I think Rizzo and Voit are very similar offensively, but Rizzo is going to probably play better defense. He's most likely going to play a full season, right? Like, the way I see it,
and he's lefty,
right?
Like, that's big.
Yeah. So the way I see it is, like, Voit may never, like, Voigt's best season was 2020, and and if you extrapolate his WAR over 600 plus play appearances, he's getting to, I'm going to get the exact number for you, but I'm pretty sure it was below a 4 WAR from what I understand. Yeah, so it was 1.7 F WAR. Divide that. I'm just going to do quick math here.
You're good, man. No worries at all.
Yeah, big math guy. Okay, so his F WAR in his absolute peak season, 152 WRC plus, everything's clicking, 4.6. That's the absolute best case scenario. Everything, and that's with his UZR being positive, but every other defensive metric being low on him.
The defensive metrics are also really weird. Like, for me, UZR for first baseman, I don't really count a lot of, because that takes into, as you know, like range, extension, like keeping like balls in play, like playable balls like that you prevented getting through or whatever. For first baseman, I never really use UZR a lot, because it's like you're first baseman, like unless you're like throwing double plays constantly, like UZR is not going to be that great for you. Donaldson had a bad UZR. I will say that. Gio had a really good one, because Gio's like ability to, like extend plays, like that everyone loved the Jeter comparisons with the photos when he'd make the leaping plays. But Donaldson's a better third baseman than Gio is. That's what people need to understand. Like, I love Gio. Sad to see him go, but Donaldson is a substantially better player than Giovanni Urshela is. But we got Urshela for what? Like 50 grand or whatever?
Yeah, when we got like acquiring Urshela was it turned out great. And we basically turned him into Josh Donaldson. So that deal just keeps getting better for us. But as for Rizzo, when he put up a 150 something WRC plus, he had a 5.3 WAR in 16 play appearances. I used Voit and I multiplied that by 650. So in Voigt's absolute best case scenario, he's still worse than Rizzo in his absolute best case scenario. Yes. I think Rizzo's most likely going to be putting up a 126-ish WRC plus.
Yeah, that's about what he's kind of settled at these past couple of seasons.
Yeah, which puts him at around 3 F WAR, right? And I think a 3 WAR is fine for a first baseman.
Especially for only 12 million or 16 million the next 2 years. Like that's I believe a WAR is worth about 7-8 million from what Fangraphs did this could be a couple years ago, so it could be outdated. But that's about like if he gets 3 WAR, that should be about 20 million for him. So we're getting him for 16. So like I'll take it. And again, Rizzo's a great clubhouse guy. Like Rizzo's just a good person. Guys love him, fans love him. Every team, regardless of who you root for, likes Anthony Rizzo. And I kind of like that we got him and brought him back for 2 more years, just to kind of like, I know it's not a big deal for Boston, but just to kind of spite him a little bit more. Because never forget, he was a Red Sox, and then that whole deal happened, and then everyone got shipped around. And I remember Trey Turner ended up moving to Washington in that deal. Rizzo, Tyler Thornburg was in that deal. So I kind of like that he's back for good now, and we get to see him under a full season. Because last year was a small sample size. Same with Gallo. Like everyone's really down on Joey Gallo. I love Joey Gallo. I think he's going to be a really good player for us this year. And by really good, I mean 225 batting average. He's not a shiny batting average guy. All the traditional stat lovers are going to hate Joey Gallo. But if you look at what he does for the team, he's like a 3-4 WAR player easily.
Yeah, and Gallo's defense is something that, like, I think you can make the argument he's better at defense than offense, not because he's bad at offense, but because he's just so unbelievably good defensively. He's a good base runner as well. If he's around a 125 WRC plus, right? Like he's putting up 4 WAR, 4.5 WAR maybe season. And in left field, left-handed hitter, big power bat, got some decent speed, right? Like you can have, and this is what I kind of always have wanted for the Yankees. If you can have Judge and Stanton split up between 2 lefties and force a manager, we saw this last year where Stanton faced Darwinzon Hernandez against the Red Sox, bases loaded, and proceeded to make Alex Cora look like an absolute moron for trying to get Rizzo out instead of trying to get Stanton out. And then in the situation in the trying to get Stanton out, you bring a righty in and Rizzo's able to do damage.
And Rizzo last year was even better against lefties than he was righties. So like you can't bring in a righty against or lefty against Rizzo and be like, oh yeah, lefty against lefty, southpaw.
Well, I think the same thing
he hits better against lefties. He makes contact so often too. Like he puts the ball in play a lot. Like if he literally was a little bit faster, Anthony Rizzo's batting average last year probably would have been about 30 points higher. But because he's so slow and he puts a lot of balls that are like soft contact or like hard contact in the middle of the field, he's not going to leg out like any of those. There's going to be like very few, if ever, any infield singles by Anthony Rizzo, like ever. But he puts the ball in play a lot. And that's what I love about having him on the team. Like you said, having him split up Judge and Stanton, especially. Like, unfortunately for Gallo last year, like at the end of the season and then the brief postseason we saw him, everyone just literally could pitch around Stanton and guys because we were still batting Gallo like 4th and 5th. And he just would strike out like every time. Like he had a really, really tough end of the season. But now we have a full season of him. We have Rizzo. And then that in my opinion, that core 5 now of that, you got Rizzo, we got probably Judge in the 2, Rizzo in the 3, Stanton 4, Donaldson 5, and then Gallo 6. Like that's not murderous row, obviously. And the Dodgers have a better lineup still. But that is a really, really good core of the lineup. Like that is insanely difficult to pitch around, really balanced. Sure, it's going to be a lot of strikeouts, but it's going to be a lot of home runs, a lot of hard hit baseballs. And I think the Yankees got better. Like Fangraphs and Pacoda and everyone has the Yankees around a 91, 92 win team, which is they were 92 and 70 last year. So it's like, I think we got better than last year and we got unlucky in a lot of ways last season. Like you talked about, some of our guys just forgot how to slug. But this year, I think the team's going to be balanced. I don't know what we're going to do with Gleyber, honestly, because we have to start DJ at second. Like we're not paying DJ LeMahieu $20 million, $25 million a year for him not to
I
play.
think it's only 15 from what I understand.
Oh,
Right?
15. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be that because I think it was what, a 5-year, $100 million
It was 6
deal?
years, 90. 690.
6 years,
That's
90.
why.
Thank you. Yeah. But either way, we signed him because he also said, I'm signing this extension because I'm not going to be a utility guy. I want to play every day.
And also, I mean, he's a better defender than Gleyber is at second. Like, I know Gleyber was a bad defender at short, and they moved him to second because you want better short defense at short. But Gleyber was a brutal defender at second as well.
Yeah.
Right? Like Gleyber, the thing with Gleyber is, coming into this year, it's a huge year for him because he needs to prove that he can be good enough to start over the guys. The Yankees didn't just bring in, and I know Isiah Kiner-Falefa, people are going to say, well, that's obviously the weakest link in the infield, but he's playing defense. He's playing defense at such a valuable position that no, you're not going to put Gleyber in there just for him to have, if I think he's probably around a 115 WRC plus for Gleyber, right? If IKF's around a 95, like, are you going to put Gleyber there to be like a significantly worse defender and also not have the base running value of IKF? No, right? Like you wouldn't traditional, just looking at it from a traditional or an analytical sense would tell you that doesn't make much sense. So Gleyber's got to prove that he can play over a second baseman like LeMahieu, who, was better than him last year, has been better than him while he's been a Yankee. Both of them are kind of projected at the same
2019 and 2020 years were absurd for DJ. I know a lot of people don't count 2020 because it was shortened and everything.
Right.
But DJ was absolutely bonkers 2020.
But, the Yankees aren't like no one, and especially the Yankees aren't going to say, well, 2020 didn't happen, or they're not going to use the logic. What happened. Projection models have them hitting around the same place, but LeMahieu's a far better defender at second base. So Gleyber got to prove to himself that he can outplay one of these four guys in Rizzo, Donaldson, LeMahieu, or IKF to the point in which he's going to justify himself being starting over one of the four.
Yeah.
And right now it doesn't look like it. So,
he may get shipped still, dude. He
might get traded. Offseason's not over, right?
We could still sign Trevor Story. I know I highly doubt we do. I say about 98% we do not end up with Trevor Story.
Yeah, I agree.
But as always, it's like the New York Knicks, honestly. Like we're linked to the big free agents every time. So maybe we do get Trevor Story, and maybe IKF is our utility guy. But a lot of people have talked about this, and it's obvious, this as well. We wanted Isiah Kiner-Falefa. Like the reason we didn't get him from the Rangers is because the Rangers didn't like Gary as much as they liked Mitch Garver. So they got Mitch Garver, and then the Twins got IKF. And then from there, the Twins were like, hey, Yankees, we know you want IKF. You got to eat someone's salary. And then we probably picked Donaldson of that. Or they said, take Donaldson's salary. And we're like, sure. Because at the end of the day, that's what I'm saying. Because at the end of the day, we'll talk about our MVPs and our breakout guys here to kind of wrap up the episode. But Donaldson is my Yankees MVP this season. Like, I think Josh Donaldson is an absurdly underrated baseball player still. Like, from 2014 to like 2018, Josh Donaldson was the second most valuable player in baseball behind Mike Trout. Like, that people forget that Josh Donaldson is really, really good. Like, and he still is really, really good at 36. Like you said, top 5 in exit velo. He was also top 15 in barrel percentage, top 15 in hard hit percentage, top 15 in average exit velo, top 15 in pitches seen at bat. Like, Josh Donaldson is so good still. And people need to realize that losing Gio sucks because everyone loved Gio. He's a lovable guy. But bringing in Josh Donaldson is bringing in not just an elite bat and a good glove still, but it's also bringing in someone that like wants to win. And I know everyone that comes to the Yankees is like, oh yeah, my goal is to win a championship, because that's what the guy behind the camera is holding up on the cue cards. Like, say you want to win a ring, they'll love you. That's the shit. But Josh Donaldson actually does want to win a ring. So having Donaldson in the lineup, not just from a like player quality, but from like a mentality perspective as well, is huge for the Yankees. So I love that. And then IKF, if we move him to the bench, IKF would still see like 400 at bats this season. Like, it's inevitable that one of our guys is injured in like a week. Like, even Rortvet today
already hurt.
Got hurt his hamstring, I believe, or his oblique. So now the already dire need for catcher just got more dire for this team, because basically we're looking at, if the season started tomorrow, it'd be Higgy and Rob Brantley at catcher. Like, what?
And I like Higgy. I've been a pretty strong supporter of Higashioka. I like the barrel rates. I like the defense he provides to the table. But he was supposed to be a guy that was only supposed to face left-handed pitching, right?
Exactly. He's a platoon bat, Cole's personal catcher, just like.
You wanted Rortvet in there because there was some upside with the power, and the defense was strong, and
he's only 24 or 25. Like, he's young.
Like, his raw power, like, I remember Higashioka when he came up, there was nothing really crazy about his power, though he did hit his first home run off of David Price, if you remember that game. But Higashioka's raw power was a 55, right? on Fangraphs. And Rortvet, I'm putting up now, just double check. It was a 50 out of 50. Yeah, it was 50. So they're similar raw power tools right there.
Yeah.
And he's always had a high fly ball rate in terms of Higashioka. Rortvet, not as much. His ground ball rates have been a little bit higher. Maybe the Yankees are hoping they can try to fix the launch angle there. Maybe it's a swing path change.
Sure.
And I'm not even saying he's going to ever be a good hitter, but can he just be like an 85 WRC plus, 90 WRC plus?
Because with this defense, and same with Higgy's defense, it makes them both good catching options at defense. Like, they're both good defenders. Higgy especially is a really good defender. His framing is elite. And that's why it's like, okay, I can live with the Yankees not making a catcher move, but Rortvet getting injured, they have to make a catching move now. Because if it is an oblique injury, literally look at Stanton. I hope someone has sat down with Stanton and asked, and I hope Ben sat down with Stanton and been like, yo, like, how can I deal with an oblique injury? Or Hicks, because those two guys injure their obliques and hamstrings more than anyone in baseball. So, like, with Rortvet, we know that a hamstring, an oblique, a groin injury can take some time to heal. And it could be 2 weeks. He could go back out there and start hitting and feel fine. And then it could be tight again and he's shut down for another 2 weeks. So, like, we need another catcher. Like, there's just no way that this team looks at Higgy and Rortvet, even if they were, looking at it as like, we're going to platoon those guys. Like, you have to have a third catching option. And I don't want him to be Rob Brantley. No offense to Rob. I mean, sure, he's a great guy, but like, I don't want Rob Brantley playing 40, 50, 60 games this year.
Now,
so
go ahead.
No. So I was like, so it's like, I just don't know what they're going to do now, because it seemed like they already weren't really searching for a catcher all that urgently over the past couple of days. So, like, now that Rortvet's injured, are they going to kind of amp that up a bit? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I was going to mention, Josh Bro is still in the organization, but because he didn't get picked up from another team because of the Rule 5 draft didn't happen this year. But he's in Double A.
Raw.
He's like really raw in Double A. He doesn't really pair well with Higgy. And there is something to like here. He does have a 70 grade raw power tool. So if he ever figures out how to put bat on ball, this guy's going to make the ball explode.
And I know we're moving Wells to first base because he doesn't work well at a catcher. And by the way, his mustache is fucking awesome. Like, he looks just like Tom. When he got up, he looks just like Mike Ford. I was like, wait, what?
Do you know what I actually, one of my first articles for Empire Sports when he got drafted, when they compared him to Don Mattingly.
There you go.
So the mustache made me think a little bit. Hey, maybe,
you probably were all over that shit. Like, he did the thing. He did the thing.
Yes, like, he's living, like, he definitely, I'm just going to put it out there. I'm going to say there's like a 95% chance he read that article and understood he has to live up to the prophecy. Yeah, so, but the only thing is we need to come up with like a Donnie Barrels type nickname for him. I come up with something sick.
I like that. We got to roll something out for him. We got to figure it out.
Problem is, like, there's like, the last name has potential. Wells, like, there's definitely got to be something there. Like, I was thinking like Wells Fargo. Nah, that's like a
Wells
bank,
Fargo.
right? Wells Fargo a bank? I gotta.
Yeah, Wells Fargo is a bank, right?
Yeah, it's a bank.
Is it like
a financial services company?
Okay.
So yeah, close enough.
Yeah,
gotta come up with something for it.
It could be like Wells Fargo. I don't know.
That might work. There has to be something. We're gonna work on this. Don't worry.
I'm excited to see what Sterling's call is for IKF as well.
Hey man, IKF, man, like
his first home run that comes in game 75.
Did you see his new batting stance?
Yeah, dude, I love it. Everyone was saying the leg kick's gonna go away. I don't see it lasting, but like, there are players that kept the leg kick and did really well. He may, like, lesser it a little bit because it is very pronounced, but he's also a lot more open. Like, his stance, his legs are a lot more open. It kind of reminds me of Hicks's stance now.
I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you remember what he looked like before, but he was like so. I don't know how to describe. Not like stiff per se. He just didn't move his legs at all.
No, he was closed. He would like close like that, and then he wouldn't lift his foot at all.
And now this looks like Justin Turner's stance. So
and I'm fine with that. And like, again, I'm not expecting Isiah Kiner-Falefa to turn into a 130 WRC plus, 25 home run, 35 steal guy ever. No, because that's not how he is. But we could do something with him, and he could be kind of like our new era Didi Gregorius, where it's like, this guy is going to be a fun guy in the clubhouse. I can just tell he's going to provide fire and intensity. He's a great base runner, a great defensive player. And if he has 100 WRC plus, I will be happy. I'll be like, wow, like, okay. Cause he's going to bat 275 with that. He puts the ball in play a lot.
Yeah.
He's a lot like Nick Madrigal. I already compared him to Nicky Lopez. He's like Nick Madrigal. He's like those types of hitters where it's like slap shot guys. It's a dying breed, but we essentially replaced Tyler Wade, who's my guy. I'm wearing a Tyler Wade jersey right now. Love Tyler Wade, but we essentially replaced Tyler Wade with his spot on the team as of right now with Isiah Kiner-Falefa. Because if we had not, because we were not going to get Correa, apparently, even if we offered him whatever, and I don't believe we get Story. If our shortstop situation was going to be basically Wade or Isiah Kiner-Falefa right now, I feel better having Kiner-Falefa. So it's like Wade was really good last year. He actually was like really good last year. And I hope he gets a starting job for the Angels because he deserves it. But we basically saw that and got Isiah Kiner-Falefa and said, hey, you're better at defense. You're not as fast, but we think you can steal 30 bags still. And we got him. So it's like, you look at the way the team's constructed, and IKF, if his new batting stance does translate to him slugging even 30 points higher this year, that's huge.
And like, if you look at his spray charts, there's a lot of fly balls to right field that we're not going out of Texas because remember that new field, right field's really deep. And you really
love
can't
Texas
design.
Ballpark. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, no, I want to go. Like I want to go see it.
It's a really nice ballpark, but I liked Globe too. So
yeah, like. Texas is a great place for baseball. Like Houston, their ballpark, their atmosphere. It's always fun.
That's why I'm glad they got Corey Seager. Like I like Corey a lot. Really good player, and he's lefty. That's also why I think his market was better than Correa's. I know as crazy as it is. If you're a lefty and you're good at baseball, and you're a righty and you're good at baseball, and you have the exact same stats, odds are the lefty's probably going to get picked up before you. Yeah, because it just feels more of a team need and it creates balance and everyone likes it more because lefties can hit usually better than righties against both sides, like both hands. Sorry. Like unless you're like Michael Conforto until like 3 years ago and you literally couldn't hit lefties. But speaking of Conforto, maybe we sign him. I don't know what his market is like dying because Nick Castellanos' 5-year, $100 million deal to the Phillies. I thought they were looking at him and Conforto and they just chose Castellanos.
I thought Conforto would have been a better fit just because, they need the offense. Yeah.
Their defense is the worst in baseball.
Right. Like they could use someone who could actually play the corner outfield and
like because Schwarber, I'm sure they're planning on DHing Schwarber.
Yeah. They should just
he and Hoskins. They got to move Hoskins, maybe. I don't know, because I've heard he could be moved for pitching. Like that team is good. That NL East is really good now.
I think the Phillies are a good team, yeah. But the problem is you can't have Aaron Nola there, who's like a high ground ball guy and struggled because of the bad defense, and then continue to put out a worse defense.
Who's the Phillies number 2 as well?
Yeah, he's the whole reason he struggled last year was because the Phillies played awful defense behind him.
Terrible.
Their solution was to get worse defense. It doesn't make any sense. Like the Phillies,
that team, it could be literally historically bad defensively because they're planning on running Castellanos out every day in outfield. And I love Nick Castellanos. He's one, in my opinion, I think he's the most underrated hitter in baseball, other than Franmil Reyes. I love Nick Castellanos, but Castellanos, there's a reason that he didn't work at third. And then they're like, screw it. We'll try you at first. And that didn't work at all. And then they tossed him in left field, and that didn't work. And then they tossed him in right field. And he was like not a little bit. He was a lot of bit below average in right, but it was enough for the Reds to be like, you're so good offensively, we don't care. And now he's going to play left field again in Philly, which is a lot of people's opinion, the least valuable defensive position on the field, the least needed defensive value on the field in left field. So it's like, Phillies now have an outfield of Harper, Castellanos. Who's the Phillies center fielder? I'm blanking on it. I know I am.
Wait. Odubel Herrera. They brought him back.
Yeah, they brought back Odubel Herrera. So it's like that's a terrible defensive outfielder. Harper's their best defensive outfielder, and he's not great.
You could argue there's a good case to be made that Shea should put Harper in center field. I don't know. I'm trying to look at Herrera's defense. Yeah, so negative UZR, positive DRS. His arm, so his arm rating on Fangraphs is pretty negative. I'm trying to see what his OA looks like. Yeah, because OA is very important for outfielders.
Yeah, that's above average.
Yeah, it's well above average. Okay, so 5 OA. So at least we'll be fine there in center field. Okay, they'll be fine in center field defensively. They'll be okay out there.
All right. Well, but to be fair, Odubel, he wasn't even on the major league roster last year. So that's why I'm also because he was on it for a bit, But Odubel also was really injury prone last 2 years and struggled a lot with contact and peripherals. So he spent a lot of time in AAA. So they're running out Odubel, hoping he can rekindle that. I'm sure you remember this 5 years ago when he got 280. They're hoping he can do that again. And they do have Mickey Moniak, I believe, in center field. That's in the minors. They have some players that they could potentially throw out there in the outfield, but it just doesn't make sense because it's you're literally openly saying, we don't care about defense right now. Because you signed Schwarber and Castellanos, 2 terrible defensive players.
Yeah, and I don't think this is even mentioning, like, we're talking about their outfield. They have just a horrible infield defense. Like, it's so bad.
Segura can't play. I love Didi, but Didi in his offense, Didi last year was terrible offensively. Like one of the worst in baseball.
Didi's defense was last year
not good either.
Really bad. Yeah, he's clearly not the shortstop
and then
he was.
You got Bohm at third, who they hope pans out better than
he
did last year.
He's got Yips at third.
Yeah, you can't. It's so weird. And then first base, Rhys Hoskins, who they literally were like, we want you in left because we don't know about your first base abilities. And then he sucked in left, so they moved him back. So it's like this Phillies team is basically just a bunch of guys that are like, screw it, just don't drop a pop fly.
Right.
Like, that's what they're hoping with this team, because they're substantially better offensively, like substantially better. But defensively, they're worse. So it's like you hope that those don't cost you runs. And you hope that Castellanos being a terrible outfielder doesn't lead to a lot more doubles over his head. And you hope that he can make up for that offensively. So it's like, I love Castellanos. I just don't get the fit with the Phillies. They just literally are saying, like you said, we don't care about defense. So it's like
Conforto would have been
their best defensive players, Real Muto.
Right. But he, again, JT was a phenomenal defender. Like,
great player,
phenomenal.
But he's their best defensive player. Right. He's like 32 now.
And there's not a lot of defense around him. So that's a big problem. But, you know, free agency has been busy. Yankees have been somewhat active. I mean, the last two remaining pieces, or three, I guess, that I think have a shot to be a Yankee, and I'll put them in the ranking order that I believe it's Minaya, Montas, and then Story's kind of a pipe dream. Maybe could it be, you know, if the Yankees were somehow
Story, I think we could get him on a 1 or a 2 year deal. That's the only way I see us getting Story, is if he just wants money and wants a prove it deal. That's it.
And if the Yankees could get Story, I mean, they're getting a guy who is, I mean, he would be such a big, he would change everything for the Yankees. He would.
And that's why I'm saying, like, it's crazy to me that the team isn't entirely jumping on it, because and maybe this could be on owners again, because there does.
I think it is ownership. This
offseason is really weird, because I'm not against Hal and Cashman. You know, I think Cashman is a pretty decent owner. Or president, sorry. Like, what exactly does
Cashman's, I think, president, but also GM.
Yeah, because I thought Randy Levine was president. But so yeah, you got like let's just say like Hal and Cashman, because they're so often coupled together. Like when we got Sonny Gray a couple years ago, I thought that was an incredibly good deal, and then Sonny didn't work out. He sucked in New York. This last season, we get Rizzo and Gallo. People loved both acquisitions. They both struggled. Gallo was really bad for like the last month. I still believe in those deals, and I still think they're good deals. But this offseason, it seems weird, because it seems like there's a massive disconnect, and it seems like some either blindsiding or some shade thrown by both sides from Hal and Cashman. So it seems like Cashman doesn't know what's going to happen exactly, and Hal doesn't know what's going to happen exactly with this team. So like if we sign Story, that's sick. It just depends on what we sign him to. If we sign him to a 2-year deal, then I'm 100% like, well, the Yankees see these 2 years as our window. But if that's the case, why did we trade for Stanton 3 years ago? Why did we sign Cole to a massive deal? Why are we even thinking about extending Judge if we don't think we're going to be competitive for 4 years? So I want to see what they do, man. I want them to do more. Like I like the team right now. Like I said, I think we have a really good team still, but I want them to do more. And Minaya Montas, I know you love Montas, so I wouldn't mind that at all.
Montas, he throws 96 miles per hour on his fastball. He had ridiculous strikeout stuff.
So much movement too.
When he started using his splitter more, he won 7 FIP or something like that, or ERA. I forget which one. I mean, we're talking about a guy who, once he started using his splitter more, was arguably a top 15 pitcher in baseball. Yeah. Right. And you throw that into a rotation with a guy like Garrett Cole. Luis Abreu is pitching tomorrow, actually. He'll be the Yankees pitching for the Yankees spring opener at home.
I'm hyped about that, dude.
Their home opener. They already started spring training, obviously, but their home opener. And you put that in that rotation, right? Montgomery, strong number. He was a strong number 2 last year. Yeah,
Gumby's got what it takes to be a number 2.
Now you move him to a number 4. A number 4? Like, good God. Tyone or Nestor can fight it out for that 5th spot, depending on how they look throughout the season. And then we saw Hayden Wesneski yesterday. And I don't know if you saw that slider, man.
Oh, it's a frisbee.
It's
what was it, 22 inches of break on it?
Yeah, horizontal, but it was gorgeous. And I actually have pulled up here. So Pitching Bot, which is it was a website or kind of app developed by Cameron Grove, who is just a genius. This guy built this pitching model. Nice. And it grades pitches on a scale from 20 to 80, like how prospects are graded. Mm-hmm. And yesterday he was able to grade Hayden Wesneski because Hayden Wesneski, we had StatCast data for him. Curveball 65 grade, changeup 60 grade. Everything else was at or above average.
Yeah.
His curveball, obviously the best pitch. His slider really good, changeup really good. Sinker was strong. The four seamer got a lot of whiffs yesterday. He throws at 96, right? Like Wesneski's a guy who could. I mean, this isn't just skilled for minor leaguers; it's skilled for major leaguers. So Hayden Wesneski's stuff yesterday was, that would be someone who would be like a number 2, maybe number 3 kind of guy in a rotation, right? Like that's a guy. And Wesneski, I think, pitched in AAA from our standing, AA. I can double check that right now. But we could see the Yankees farm being in huge play here. Yeah, Wesneski reached AAA last year, 3.27 ERA in 3 starts or 2
so
starts.
we could see him in play. We saw Luis Gil last year a lot as well.
Yeah,
there is Clark Schmidt, of course, coming back healthy this season.
We don't know how
Garcia seems to have fallen off the past 2 years entirely, like collapsed, but he still has good stuff. And as you remember, like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, even Davey Garcia, everyone's like, oh, Davey Garcia, he could be a number 2. And now here we are, and Davey Garcia is like our 14th ranked prospect, 13th ranked prospect. I could be wrong on that, but we're not nearly as high as we were on Davey Garcia. But there are a lot of options we can throw out there. And like you said, if we get Montas, that just makes this team that much better. And same with Manaea. Like we talked about this a little bit, where it's like the trade-off between the two guys is that you get better stuff and better upside in Montas. You get more reliability and more consistency in Manaea. Because Manaea will get you 160 innings, 170 innings.
Right. And Manaea also he's going to cost.
He costs
right?
less.
Yeah. Like not financially, obviously, $10 million in ARB compared to $5 million. But the way I see it is, you get Manaea and you get Story. Like that's a really good team. You saved your offseason. You have put together a lineup where you have Josh Donaldson, Trevor Story, Anthony Rizzo, Judge, Stanton, Gallo, all hitting together.
DJ, if DJ bounces back too, like DJ was a 340 hitter in 2020.
Right. DJ and Hicks suddenly become 7-8 hitters. Yeah, 7-8 hitters. DJ Hicks, another guy. Like he can when
6-7, because then you'd have your catcher and then IKF.
Oh no, well you'd have what? Story, Rizzo, JD.
You wouldn't have IKF. That's right.
Right. You would have IKF on the bench. So he would be your utility guy. Right. And that's a guy who can pinch run, do a lot of different things, play defense, give your guys off days. You have a lot more versatility, like the Dodgers do this really well, where sometimes I'll have Bellinger play first, center, right, left.
Max Muncy.
Muncy will play first, second, third, right. They will have different guys play everywhere. Right. And the Yankees could have that as well. You look at that lineup, it's suddenly ridiculous. That infield, one of the best infields they've had since that 2009 infield, which was legendary.
We'd still have Glaber though. That's the only reason I don't like the Montas deal and Manaea deal. Is because the problem is that there's nowhere else really to go and to like try to couple Glaber for a pitcher, because for whatever reason the Reds are just like, we're keeping Castillo and Tyler Mahle, and it's like, why? You're just gonna make them suffer?
Yeah, but come on, let's just give us Mahle. They're just being like ridiculous.
And those statements also don't mean shit. Like, let's be honest. I mean, 4 days ago, Cashman came out and Boone both came out and were like, Gio's our starting shortstop. Voigt's our starting first baseman. We like where we're at. And then like a week goes by and both guys are no longer on the team. So it's like none of those comments mean anything.
Now the Reds are just
sorry, what?
They said Glaber's the backup shortstop. So maybe that's
my thing. Like, I don't want Glaber to be our backup shortstop.
Maybe Glaber's gone because every time he has to player, they go. Yeah. But
and he has to be gone.
Like trolls. Reds have to stop.
The Reds just need to make something, like make a decision, because the Reds are like, it's weird because I think that in terms of not going all the way in or not going all the way out, the Reds are about where the Twins are, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, if that makes sense. So like the Twins are like, they're going for it, but they're not going all the way in. The Reds are collapsing, but they're not fire selling everything. Yeah.
Now, I will say this, at least the Reds, like I could say at least for the Reds, like I wouldn't say like a Twitter user would be able to run the Reds a lot better. Like I could say about the Rockies. Like I could say that like you could grab like a guy like named Icy Correa season and throw them in the Rockies front office, and you're going to get as good, if not better results. Shout out to whoever Icy Correa season is. I'm going to find him on Twitter and give him a little shout out.
Like that's the thing. Like the Rockies make no sense. The Rockies moves make no sense, because even before they let John Gray walk, and then they extended Antonio Sensatella for like 5 years, and his numbers were not good. And they still have German Marquez. So it's like, why are you guys getting rid of some players, like letting Story walk, not wanting to pay Nolan, to the point where you literally send $40 or $50 million or whatever it was to the Cardinals to get rid of him. And then you let Story walk just to bring in Chris Bryant, extend Sensatella, not trade Marquez, who was your all-star and had the most value, not trade Story at the deadline last year. Like, the Rockies just, their front office are a bunch of idiots. Like, and if I ever have like a Rockies interview to work with their team and this podcast comes up, I would still defend that statement. Like, what the hell is going on? They literally chose one marketable star to sell tickets, got him on and said, okay, we're done. There goes our offseason. Like, I guarantee the Rockies do nothing else except maybe some
for sure.
guys to one-year deals. Like, CJ Cron's a good player, but their core is Cron, Blackmon, who I don't know how he's still playing baseball. Charlie Blackmon is like 36, I think now.
Charlie Blackmon will be having his RBW in with the Rockies. He'll be having a resurgence with the Rockies. And when he is good at the deadline, and the New York Yankees are looking to add another bat because they've decided that they just decided that they need a fourth outfielder or something.
So this is what you're thinking? I hate it because I can see it.
Blackman's always been someone who, like, I think is gonna be a Yankee like 5 years after he was like an elite player. Like, it's just one of those things where like I don't even think it's gonna be like one of those like stupid like the Yankees give him a ton of money or anything. It's just like he signs like a minor league contract, like spring training invite. That's just like
it adds up. It adds up. I mean,
like, I think Correa's gonna be Yank at some point, but he's gonna be like 39 when it happens.
Like, the point is, like, the Rockies, I just don't know what they're doing. Like, that front office sucks, and I feel bad for Rockies fans because I know that there are such things as Rockies fans, but like it just sucks because it's like, hey, you guys made a great deal with getting Chris Bryant. Like, that's awesome that you guys signed someone. But then, like, if you're a Rockies fan, and you get an alert and you see, oh, like, Rockies signed Chris Bryant, you're like, what? Sick. What is it? 4 years, $60 million? Like, what a deal. We probably got him for a steal. And then you see they paid him more than Freddie Freeman got, and et cetera. And it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. And then you look at the rest of their team and you see the deals they've handed out and the moves they've made, and you're like, all right, what is going on? Like, at least with the Twins, they're making moves and they're like showing their fans like, hey, we're trying to win. We're trying to be competitive. And
they're still in the market for guys like Montas and I. Like, they're still committed to
Story still. Like, they're honestly, call me crazy. The Twins may still get Trevor Story and just play him at third.
Maybe.
And because like they could just use Gio as a super utility with Luis Arias on the bench. And I don't know. So, like, the point is that Trevor Story's still out there. Teams are all still in on Trevor Story. And he's gonna be signed in the next few days. Like, that's guaranteed, obviously. So, like, the league is still looking very different than is gonna look in opening day 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. And I still think the Yankees team could look a lot different. But, like, what I just don't get is, like, how you can look at, like, the Rockies right now and at all defend what they're doing. Right. I haven't seen a single opinion defend it, which is good. But, like, if you're the Rockies front office, what the hell are you thinking? Like, are you guys like, yeah, this is our window? Like, Ryan McMahon, CJ Cron, Charlie Blackmon, and Chris Bryant are going to get us to the playoffs.
I just want to clarify, CJ Cron used to be a Ryan Garcia. Some guy used to be a guy I wanted the Yankees.
He's a good player.
Yeah, it was when Luke Voit went down, which I feel like could apply to, like, any point in time over the last 3 years, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there are a lot of Ryan Garcia ESM guys on the Rockies. So when they're not very good at the deadline, maybe you'll see a lot of tweets about Rockies players.
Hey, I mean, at least we're not rolling into opening day with Jay Bruce as our first baseman.
Yeah, that's a huge
and Chris Gittens there and Mike Ford. Those, again, this is my point.
Chris Gittens, another Ryan Garcia ESM guy, just because he hits the ball very hard. That's basically it. But
that's my thing. Like, at least our first base options right now, like, are Rizzo and then DJ is our backup first baseman. That's the way I see it.
We don't suck is the point.
That's way better than Jay Bruce, Gittens, Mike Ford going out there. Like that. Like, because as you remember, this happened when DJ was injured and Voit was injured, which, as you said, could literally have been the last 3 years for Voit. Our options were bad. Now it's like Rizzo is sure he has some people worry about his back because he's had some back issues the past couple of years, but Rizzo is a very durable player. So I think Rizzo is going to play 145 games this year.
They're not ready for when. And remember, Rizzo was only bad right after he came back from COVID and he didn't get a rehab. So, they're not ready for when Anthony Rizzo puts up that 125 WRC plus left-handed side. They're not ready for it. They're not ready for it. That's
no one's also ready for Josh Donaldson's 140 WRC plus this year.
They're not ready, man.
And again, this is my thing. Like, Josh Donaldson, if you look at his career, it's kind of funny. So 2018 or 2019, I believe he got traded 2019, right? Yeah,
2018 he got traded. 2018.
So 2018 he got traded to the Indians. Yeah, and then 2019 he went to the Braves, and then 2020 he signed that deal with the Twins. Okay, I'm caught up. There we go. But like, my thing is, like, when his manager at the time, I forget who the manager of the Blue Jays was when he said this. He said, oh, Josh Donaldson is not injured. He just has a dead arm. And I remember when that broke, I loved it as a Yankees fan because I was like, well, Donaldson can't play third base anymore. And then the next season, when he plays a full season, he goes to the Braves and he hits 37 home runs.
10 defensive runs saved,
like 6 WAR, 5 WAR.
Yeah.
Huh?
He had 10 DRS that year. That's ridiculous.
No, yeah. And that's my other thing. If you look at the defensive runs saved over the last 3 seasons, Donaldson's had 10. Gio had, I believe, 4 or 1. So it's like Donaldson is an upgrade on both sides of the ball, in my opinion, over Gio. And the thing I was trying to getting at is that when Donaldson was counted out that year, he bounced back huge. Even last season, he was injured, but the season before, people forget he bat 222 the season before. And people are like, oh, the Twins just got a terrible deal in Josh Donaldson. Then he bounces back last year and is pretty good again. So Josh Donaldson loves this kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm going to lure you in and have you think I'm not a great baseball player anymore. And then I'm just going to explode for an elite season. Like he could be an 850 OPS, 35 home run, 140 WRC plus, 4.5 WAR player this year. And we got him because we wanted IKF. That's what I like about that deal a lot, because we didn't want Donaldson. We didn't say Minnesota give us Donaldson. There were no rumors at all about Josh Donaldson being traded. And then we call him up, get IKF and an elite hitter. So I'm like, well, I'll take that deal. I'm going to miss Gio. Gary, mixed emotions about. I mean, catching is so hard to come by in baseball. He was actually a pretty good catcher, all things considered. But for what we got back, dude, I love it. Like Josh Donaldson's my Yankees MVP this year.
Yeah.
He looks good too, clean shaven with the mohawk back. He no longer looks like some hipster Viking that he's attempting to create like an image for. He dresses like he's like 24 when he's 36. But hey, he's going to hit a lot of home runs and his swing is beautiful.
I don't think the people understand that Josh Donaldson's ex-Woba last year is 21st best in baseball. Which is really
top
sad
10% for like every major hitting stat. Literally everyone.
Josh Donaldson might actually hit like 35, 40 home runs. Like, and if you look at the short porch in right field, how he hits to that side of the field,
that's what's like crazy.
Dude. Like
I've seen Zips and Steamer project him to hit like 22 home runs, and I'm like, what is wrong?
Zips has him at 22, Steamer at 30, but the Bat X, it has him at 29, but in only 127 games with a 131 WRC plus. Like
he's got to play more than 127 games.
Yeah, if he could, even if he gets 130, 140, pushing it a little bit.
I say 140 games for Donaldson this year.
If you give me 135 games, dude, like, and you give me a 130, 135 WRC plus, like, good God, man, that's huge. Yeah, he barreled 17% of baseballs last year,
and I saw that too. And what's crazy about it is that I think it was 17.4% barrel rate.
Yeah, 17.4. You got to
that was a career high.
Correct. That's ridiculous.
That was a career high for Josh Donaldson. That was 0.2% less than Aaron Judge. And
his barrels per plate appearance. So like per plate appearance, only strictly per plate appearance, not just batted ball, right? It was the third highest in baseball. It's actually ahead of Judge, 11.2% compared to 11.1%. The guys ahead of him, Shohei Ohtani, 12.2%, Fernando Tatis Jr., 12.8%. That's it.
And that's the thing. The only worry I had last year in terms of Josh Donaldson's numbers when I did a little bit of a deep dive for this episode, the only worry I have is that his solid contact percentage was the lowest of his career. It was 4.8%, which was worse than Brock Holt. So it's very weird because everything else Donaldson did last year was like elite hitting wise. And then you look at that one stat and you're like, huh.
Yeah, like he'll either hammer the ball or he'll, even last year, dude, a 12.3%. I was going to say he either hammers the whole ball or he hits it soft. That's why he had a 12.3% soft contact percentage.
It's so low.
Yeah, he just doesn't hit the ball soft. That's perfect. Like that's exactly.
That's what's so crazy is that his barrel rate was the highest of his career, yet his solid contact percentage was the lowest it's ever been. So I'm like, basically Donaldson, and I do personally think it was because he had that calf and that quad injury. And when you watch Donaldson swing, he has that big leg kick. He puts a lot of his weight on that back leg because he loves to get the torque into the ball. Josh Donaldson fucking rips the baseball every time he hits it. But if his solid contact goes up to say 6.5%, which is about kind of 7% where it is for his career, and the barrel rate stays the same, Josh Donaldson can bat like 265 with like a 360, 350 OBP because he works a ton of walks. He's like a 13% like walk rate guy. Like Josh Donaldson is basically like the shorter, douchier, if you wanted to say that, version of Aaron Judge.
He reminds me a lot of Stan coming off that 2018, 2019, 2020 years, where it was like, he's a good hitter. Maybe there's got to be more, right? And there could be more.
And there should be more from him this season.
Like, you look at the walk rate, you look at how hard he hits the ball. There could be more.
And he doesn't strike out a ton. He strikes out about the same amount as Glaber does. Like 22, 23% is where he's settled at.
He struck out 2% less than the average hitter in 2020, which is, I remember seeing people, the Yankees got another righty high strikeout guy. Whoa, high strikeout. Look at the numbers.
Yeah, and look at Donaldson from like 2013, 2018. He had like one season where he struck out more than 20% of the time.
Right. Like, Yankee fans sometimes, they do this thing. If they don't think, if it's not the exact player they've always wanted, they'll just assume the guy is just, and he's right-handed. Oh, he's just another right-handed slow strikeout. He's slow, yes. Right?
Yes,
but
he's
slow.
But Gio was slow too. He and Gio are like a wash.
Gio was slow. Like, people are
that's the thing. People are acting like Gio. Yeah, he was like Gio was going to steal 20 bases this year, and he was nimble.
Gio swung at everything, didn't have as much power, and was super slow. And
and that's the thing, dude. Like, last 3 years, I know 2020 because it was shortened. A lot of people look at it like, yeah, that's a weird season. Last 3 years, Donaldson's average WRC plus has been 127. He's accumulated 8 total F4 and a roughly 366 WOBA in that span. Gio, 120 WRC plus, 5.7 F4, and a 339 WOBA. So in the past 3 years, Josh Donaldson has literally gotten shit on in the past 3 years because he can't stay healthy. He's only appeared in 30 less innings at third base in the last 3 years than Gio did for us.
And he's played more games. And Gio Urshela's never...
He's got more at-bats.
Did you know that Gio Urshela's never had 500 plate appearances ever in a full season?
That's what I'm saying.
Ever in his career.
Gio, I love Gio, and I'm not trying to shit
Great guy,
Gio.
yeah.
I'm just trying to be like, guys, like, we got better. And I hate the narrative that we got worse because we lost Gio because he was a great guy. We lost our catcher. That's where we got substantially worse. Is Gary in the last 5 years with the Yankees had a career 800 OPS with the Yankees. He's the only power hitting catcher like left in baseball, other than like Mitch Garver, Mike Zunino, and JT Realmuto, who just does everything, and Yasmani, who also just does everything.
I think the biggest thing the Yankees lost there was stability, right? Like, they lost having someone you can play versus righties and lefties, and that stings. But I get where they're going, right? They want to go more defense.
It was a good move
there. Right.
And for a two, and just looking at, and everyone loved this when it happened, the pure like value of the players, the war of the players, we won the deal. If you look at offensive numbers, we won the deal. If you look at defensive numbers, we won the deal. The only part that we didn't win is that we have to take on Donaldson's $25 million a year. But Josh Donaldson is a very good hitter for $25 million a year. And I think he's better than 95% of the options on the free agent market that we could have signed. If we signed Castellanos to a 2-year, $50 million deal, a lot of people would be like, that's a weird ass signing. Yeah. It makes no sense. But a lot of people would also be like, on the bright side, Nick Castellanos is an amazing offensive hitter. So we get Donaldson, who's basically offensively still Castellanos levels, about 125, about 135 WRC plus. And we got him to play a much needed position that he plays well. And in the window of things that we want to accomplish. So like, we got Donaldson for 2 years. Sure. It's honestly probably a couple years late. Like, I bet we would have loved Donaldson 2015, 2014, when he and Billy Beane had that huge fallout. But now you look at it and you're like, if Donaldson plays 140 games and he plays 115 at third, 120 at third, because I think he will, he only played 92 last year. But it's, again, when you have quad and like muscle injuries, they suck because they always nag. But now he looks healthy and he's swinging well. So if he plays at 120 games at third, 100 and DHs, pinch hits, and another 20 or so, the Yankees absolutely won that deal. And I don't even care how bad of an offensive player Isiah Kiner-Falefa is.
And what they're getting with Donaldson here, I mean, I'm looking at the Savant Illustrator where it has the spray charts. I'm counting right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you want to stretch it, you could go up to that's 9 definite balls that would be home runs in Yankee Stadium from what I'm counting there. If you want to just get X home runs, it's 33 for him when he had 26 last year. So that's at minimum what? That's 7 extra home runs. Imagine you throw in 7 extra home runs to Josh Donaldson's freaking spray chart.
He's a 140 WRC plus player. Dude, again. His career WRC plus is 137.
If he didn't get started so late at the age of 27, this is a Hall of Famer.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's got like 45 WAR in his career as well. Yeah. Accumulated. Like, the dude, even when he was in Oakland, he wasn't as big of a power guy in Oakland. He was honestly like Matt Chapman. He was literally the original Matt Chapman. That's why I hate the comps, because if Matt Chapman stops swinging, missing a lot this year and gets better barrel rate, Matt Chapman could literally be Josh Donaldson 2.0.
Okay, one thing I find hilarious that Josh Donaldson has the same F and R WAR. I don't think I've ever seen this for a player with such a large sample
What is it, like
size. It's
44?
44.4
Yeah.
on the dot for both, which is
Donaldson
ridiculous.
is a really, really good
Yeah,
baseball player.
like, dude, since 2013 when he really broke out, he's posted a 43.6 F WAR, right? In any other context, right? In the context, if that guy was, and I think it's kind of what's going to end up happening with Judge too, where it's going to be like, if he just came up a little bit earlier, this guy's a lock to be in the Hall of Fame. I think Donaldson
still like, maybe, because Donaldson, you give Donaldson 2 more years, and let's say he's healthy this year and next with the Yankees, and he's good. This is again, it could be hypothetical because it's the Yankees, so someone always gets injured. But let's say Donaldson's healthy and he plays really well, and he puts together 4 WAR this year and then 3 WAR next year. Factoring in this like classic decline in age and shit. And he ends his career with roughly 50 career WAR, 52.
He'll have a good chance.
He could have a good chance. That's lower than the average, the benchmark, yes. But you take into what he's done and how short his career has been, all things considered. And Josh Donaldson has one of the best baseball careers of all time.
Yeah, and I will say this.
If he wins a ring too, my God.
Yeah, Donaldson by Zips is projected to go 3.2 F WAR, 2.2 F WAR, and 1.1 F WAR. And they have the declining durability. Right. Yeah.
So they basically think he's gonna be worth like 1 less win each season for the next 2 years.
And so if he gets to that point, that means he would have accumulated 6.5 F WAR,
which is add
that to 44.4
or 51. Sorry,
it's 50. Yeah, it's 50.9. Now if he can just age a little bit better than his projections, they will get another year in there. You're talking 53, 54, 55 F WAR maybe.
Like he's a
Hall of Famer. Maybe
it's hard because the bench, and I will say it's probably Hall of very, very, very good.
I think the thing is the peak is going to help. He has a real there are guys who've gotten in because their career length isn't crazy, but their peak is really good.
You're right.
And
he could do it, and especially if he's good. And like I said, these are all hypotheticals because as of right now, I do not think this Yankees team is going to win a World Series. I don't think we're good enough to win a World Series, but it's baseball. No one thought the Braves were going to win a World Series last year, especially after Cunha and Soroka went down. No one thought that was going to happen. And then they literally dominate the last third of the season. Jorge Soler, Eddie Rosario, and Jock Peterson was the World Series winning outfield with Adam Duvall. Yeah. No one could have thought that. Even with the Dodgers team last year, no one would have thought that the Braves were better. And you that's my point with baseball. Like this Yankees team is good. It's really good. We could win the World Series. I don't feel like we will, but if we do, you add that to Josh Donaldson's career and he contributes to that this season, that's a very good case for Hall of Fame.
Now Josh Donaldson, I think is a good comp. I think a good comp for Josh Donaldson to be a guy like Vlad Guerrero Sr. Got into Hall of Fame with a 54.5 F WAR, but he got in because of that ridiculous peak where he had a 146 WRC plus and 50.2 F WAR in about a 10-year stretch. Yeah. Right. We're not at 10 years yet for Donaldson. He's at a 43.6, 146 WRC plus. Can he get to that 50? Can he get to it? And if he could do it as a Yankee, I feel like that'd be special, right? Like he gets that Hall of Fame. Sick. And the Yankees really have a case here to cement legacies, right? Like Judge with a ring. Judge with a ring is getting his number retired, I think.
Judge is already, in my opinion, going to Monument Park for the Yankees.
Yeah, he plays the way he keeps playing. He gets an extension from the Yankees.
I just don't know why we haven't offered an extension. Like I don't get what's going on.
Neither. I'm confused there too.
It's like you literally throw Judge 6 for 140 and he says yes.
Yeah,
he likes the Yankees.
I don't think Rizzo will get to the Hall of Fame just because he's 32. He's at a 31.8 F WAR. He's a first baseman.
He's not a Hall of Famer, but he's got a great legacy. Like that's the thing with Rizzo. Right. He's not a Hall of Famer, but he's a Hall of very good. He will
be remembered the way like a Tino Martinez was remembered here, or even a Mark Teixeira.
Like top baseball WAR players or whatever. He's only like 4 places or 5 places behind Freddie Freeman.
Right, like he's been one of those guys. He's a really strong.
He's really good.
Career. He's gonna be very, very good.
I've also seen no disrespect to Freddie by this, and I will say I was in the same boat where I wanted him to remain a Brave, but I think the Braves getting Olsen was a great move. I mean, we all wanted Olsen. Yankees fans wanted Olsen. That was the plan. Yankees get Olsen, Braves keep Freddie, Dodgers are fucked. That was the plan everyone wanted. But instead,
the Dodgers
fucked everyone. The Braves got Olsen, and then we got Rizzo back, which I'm not mad about because, again, it's Rizzo. But my thing is, like, those 3 guys, I had never seen a time where it's like there was a large gap between the 3 in terms of the way they were perceived and talked about. But if you look at their stats, Rizzo, Olsen, and Freeman are all very, very comparable hitters. very,
I
very
think
comparable players.
I think Rizzo is very clearly the worst player of the three. And that's
I agree,
fine.
but I'm saying like career-wise, you look at it like Anthony Rizzo for like 6 years in a row, batted at least like 285.
Right.
Like he was really, really good. And again, I'm not expecting him to be that guy this year at all for us because he's not that same player. But yeah, there's a reason he was the third best player out of those three, clearly. But my point is that the narrative that Anthony Rizzo is like, oh, like I can't believe the Yankees just chose to re-sign Rizzo. Like that's so dumb. Like I wish we got Freddie or Olsen. Like they're so much better. They're really good. They're elite. But look at what the Braves gave up for Olsen. We would have had to give up the value essentially is the same for them as if we gave up. I'm not going to say just Volpe because I think Langoliers and Pache are about the two of them combined are about the same value as Volpe that he holds, especially because Pache hasn't worked out in the majors and his hitting is not good.
Volpe for me is one of those guys where like if he can just, he can just
I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to be a stud.
I
hope we don't wait too long to bring him up, though. I hope we don't wait till he's like 25 to bring him up. And then he's like, by that time, figured out like what happened with Estevan Florial, who I think, by the way, he will play a lot this year. Call me crazy. We'll see Estevan Florial in center field.
Is that going to be your breakout guy? Like, would you say he's your breakout guy?
So my breakout guy, I will say, we're doing a really long episode today. But honestly, it's the first one of the kind of new season, and I hope this works out.
There's a lot to talk. There's so much. Like, there's so much to talk about right now.
But I think we could talk for another 10 or so minutes. So people that are like listening, like, it's gonna be a long one, but a lot of great content here. And if you want to split this into 2 episodes and listen throughout the day, whatever, that's great. So like that's the thing with this. We were having a lot of good content here. But my breakout guy is it's not so much a breakout because he's already pretty good, but it's Jordan Montgomery. Like, I think this is the year that Gumby pitches 180 innings. I think this is the year that he says to people, hey, guys, I can now throw 95. People always seem to forget that Jordan Montgomery, because he doesn't, pump gas. He doesn't have that Frisbee slider like we saw with Wisniewski. That he doesn't have those it factors, that he's not in a, like, elite, fun starting pitcher to watch. Jordan Montgomery last year, I believe, posted the best K/9 in his career.
Yeah.
He does not give up the home run ball a lot either. He had the second lowest home run to fly ball percentage on the team. So it's like, you know what you're going to get out of Montgomery. He's really good. And my thing is with Montgomery, I put some stuff down here. 2020, he was really banged up with an injury. He had elbow problems as well. And that was his worst season. That's an anomaly, in my opinion. He
had good peripherals. If you look at the FIP, xFIP Sierra for Montgomery,
they were not bad.
He was unlucky. Very unlucky.
That's what I'm saying. Like all that, his 11.8% home run to fly ball percentage, was only behind Nestor Cortez last year. Mm-hmm. That was the only pitcher on the Yankees staff that was better at limiting the home run ball. So, as you know, that's the one gripe that Yankees pitchers have always gotten. Don't give up the long ball. Don't give up the dinger. And as you know, Garrett Cole in the wild card, when he imploded, everyone was like pissed. Gave up a lot. James Paxton gave up a lot. Even Tanaka, when he struggled for a bit and his splitter wasn't getting that drop, gave up a lot of home runs.
Yeah.
The Yankees do this occasionally. They have these pitchers that are honestly pretty good, really good pitchers. And then they find one thing that they can really point out as a flaw. With Jordan Montgomery, there aren't many blatant things that you can look at and be like, oh, that's a flaw of his. That's a flaw of his. Good ground ball percentage, good at leaving batters on and stranding runners. Really good at getting through adversity. Like Montgomery, I feel like last year was, aside from Cole, the only guy that I'd see in the 6th inning pitching for the Yankees.
And I don't like to use the word gritty a lot because we don't know these players, right? Like we don't know these players personally, right? But Montgomery is like he's a great guy.
He's a competitor, dude. He goes out there and gives it all. He reminds me of CC mentally.
He's got there's like this like subjective level of like him, like he's him. Montgomery is him. Like, what that like he'll have starts where he has like you'll look after the first things like this guy's not gonna get past the 3rd or 4th, and he's there in the 6th or 7th. You're like, how the hell?
That's what I'm saying. Like he gets through shit that you're like, and like I cannot tell you how many times I tune into a Yankees game and it'd be the 3rd inning or whatever, and there'd be runners on 1st and 2nd with 1 out, and Montgomery's at 45 pitches, 50 pitches in the 3rd, and I'm like, so he's getting pulled, and then you check back at the end of the like a couple innings later, and you're like, geez. Montgomery went through 3 1/3 more innings, through 60 more pitches, and got the Yankees a quality start.
And really that one start that ruined him was that Rays start at end of the season. Like, dude, I'm pretty sure his ERA was 3.49, his FIP was 3.43. Like, I was so ready to push Jordan Montgomery narratives like crazy. I'm still gonna push him.
You still should, dude. Shove that.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Throats.
But
Jordan
I was gonna like
an elite number 2, number 3.
I would have been able to say he had. I'm pretty sure like same ERA minus like Clayton Kershaw at one point. Like I would have been able to push some crazy narratives.
That's the thing. Like I see Gumby for me. My favorite comp for Gumby and my favorite Yankee of all time is Andy Pettitte. So I see that comp a lot because they're very similar style of pitchers. That swooping curveball, standing, dominant, intimidating stance, and windup as well. And I think that Gumby can be our Pettitte for this team to Cole with the way that works. And I think that like he can be the Pettitte to CC like he is to Cole is what I'm trying to say, I guess. Like it could be a nice little reincarnate. And for me with Montgomery, everyone's talking about Luis Severino right now, and him being healthy is huge because if he's healthy and he pitches 160 innings or whatever, he's obviously our number 2 right now. He's elite. But with Montgomery, what I love about it is that I feel like people are already just accepting Montgomery's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Like no one's really looking at him like, oh, I got a lot of questions about Montgomery. I don't know if he's going to be able to be that good. Like, I think a lot of people are much more on the side of, I think he's going to take that step forward rather than a step backward.
The people aren't understanding that Jordan Montgomery, like his if you look at his projections for next year, they're pretty good. Right, like Zips has him as a 3.85 ERA pitcher with his FIP as a 3.79. That ranks as one of the better starters in the American League. Right, like if you want to have like a comparison for where his FIP is at, it's where with Marcus and Noah Syndergaard, and it's better than guys like Justin Verlander or Dylan Sean Manaea, who we just talked about, Hyun-Jin Ryu. Right, like we're talking about the typical number 2, number 3 type starter. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, last year. So Barrios just got that massive extension. Last year, Barrios accumulated 4.1 WAR, which I will say WAR for pitches is different to use, and of course look at. But like the FIP and the XFIP for Montgomery was 3.69, 3.93 last year. For Barrios, it was 3.47, 3.59. So it's like, you want to tell me that the guy that is now making like, what did he sign? 6-7 years, 130 million for something, I believe what Barrios signed for. The guy is making almost $20 million a year. Is that much better and he's that much more deserving of a contract and recognition than Montgomery? No. Like if Montgomery goes out there and throws 170 innings this year, 165, 170 innings, he is going to be a 3.6 ERA pitcher, a lot of ground balls, doesn't give up the home run ball, and he's just going to be stability. That's what the Yankees rotation needs the most of.
Yes, stability.
Because I love all the pieces we have, like Nestor and Heel that we talked about. Severino's a big question mark. Like I love that, but I want to see at least 2 pitchers on the rotation throw 160 innings. Like, please. Taillon, I want him to be healthy. I don't know about his ankle. He looks pretty good in spring. He says he's feeling good, but I don't know. Like, there's a lot of I don't knows with this team, and if we get Montas or Manaea, that'll immediately shore up one of those I don't knows to a boom. There's 160 innings.
Yeah, and if you look at, and I want to bring up another narrative for Montgomery because I love narratives. Did you know that Walker Buehler and Jordan Montgomery are projected to have, if you look at Steamer 600, which gives everyone like the same amount of volume because you can't really adjust, like you can't predict injuries that well for guys, right? So the concept behind it is if you like WAR per inning or per plate appearance, right? Like what are you getting? Walker Buehler is projected for a worse ERA WAR or not ERA, runs allowed per 9 WAR and FIP and the same FIP WAR as Montgomery for next season, folks. Better
Walker
than Max Fried in that department.
Walker's just insane stuff.
Oh, like, Walker's an incredible player.
He could have like an 11, 12 K over 9 if he wants.
Then the thing is, I mean, obviously Walker is going to pitch more, so we're just kind of narrative.
And he's still isn't Walker still like 26?
No, he's young, yeah.
It's crazy. Like Gumby's 29 now. Isn't Montgomery like 29?
Yeah. So like
I want us to extend him, but I don't see how we fit it in.
He's a Boris content. He's a Boris guy now.
Oh God.
Yeah, we're screwed.
That means we're gonna get a 6-year, $400 million Jordan Montgomery extension, and everyone's gonna be like,
we're not even gonna get a chance to extend him.
Yeah. God.
But ultimately, right? Monty's he's him, and I love that. I love that breakout chance. And I think I think my breakout guy is I'm gonna go with Hayden Wesneski, right? After yesterday, man, I'm sold on the guy.
You're a believer after the one spring trading start. You're like, let's go.
I mean, I liked him before, but a guy I want to shout out, Ron Mauricio. So I talked about Hayden Wesneski's stuff grades.
As in the Mets.
No, not Mauricio. Marianacio, excuse me, the Yankee reliever.
Oh, okay. I was like, Ronnie Mauricio, isn't he on the
Mets? I got it wrong. I confuse those two so much.
No, you're good.
On the 2080 scale for stuff grade, Ron had a 65 out of 80 sinker, 70 out of 80 changeup, 60 out of 80 fastball, 70 out of 80 slider.
He put up, dude. We love that. We love all the guys with elite stuff.
That guy put up ridiculous numbers last year. He struck out 38% of batters in AAA, actually out 41% of batters in AA.
That's nuts.
2 ERA in AA, a sub 2.5 ERA in AAA. His strikeout rates are ridiculous. If you look at StatCast, which we had it yet for yesterday's game, not for today's game, and I'm a big Ken Waldichuk guy, so it's really sad to not be able to see Ken Waldichuk's spin rates. But I'm pretty sure Ron Mauricio, there's no way StatCast is doing this to me right now. We're just not loading. It does this sometimes. But his sinker was sitting at around 2,400 RPMs yesterday for Marinacio. It's probably pronounced. I probably pronounced it terribly too. I'm really
butchered it. He's like listening.
I definitely
like, what
butchered
the
it.
Hell is that? Who is that
guy? His sinker 2,300 rotations per minute. Four seamer 2,300 rotations per minute. Slider 2,300 rotations per minute. Fastball sitting at 95. Sinker sitting at 95. Or
he's got a lot. He's got a lot of good stuff.
And he had a 67% whiff rate. That's ridiculous.
So crazy.
Yeah,
that is good stuff.
Obviously small sample size.
Sure,
not gonna say he's gonna come up and become an elite reliever.
But who doesn't love small sample size?
Ron is a guy, man. He's a key. This now this I don't wanna rip off from the Sunday night baseball, not Sunday night football. That on NBC when they're like, now this is a guy who
they love it. Yeah, Chris Collinsworth's favorite.
Yeah,
now here's a guy who that's Chris Collinsworth in a nutshell. Oh Lord.
That's a good impression.
I could be on the very like small side of this, but I'm glad Joe Buck's not doing postseason baseball announcing anymore. Because like when the Yankees would play, I would oftentimes mute Joe Buck. I don't like Joe Buck in terms of his calls, so I'm glad he's off of Fox. So now we don't have to hear him in the postseason.
I think Joe Davis is better.
I like absolutely.
I like Buck just because he's iconic.
But that's the thing. They're all iconic. They've all been doing it for like 30 years now. But at the same time, it's like it's time for a new wave, new era. I like Tony Romo a lot more than Joe Buck. I don't mind you like Drew Brees either. They're all better than Booger McFarland. That's for sure.
Yeah,
Booger McFarland is an absolute. Now, poor Booger's catching a stray in a Yankees podcast, but Booger McFarland, that dude.
Oh, do you mind doing the Collinsworth impression? But here's a guy with in Ron Marino. Do you mind doing that?
What is it? Sorry, you cut out.
Ron Marinacio. Yeah, Marinacio. Can you do the Chris Collinsworth?
Yeah,
here's a guy.
He'd be like. Now here's a guy in Ronnie Marinacio. You know, like he's got all the tools, man. You know what you're gonna get out of him.
We're clipping that.
No, he's gonna be really talented. He's gonna get out there and do 100% on every play, man. Like he's a guy that just oozes talent.
This is incredible. We're clipping this. Like this is. I'm clipping
boy.
this. This is going.
Yeah, that should go on the Fire City Yankees Twitter. That's the get over here. We're talking about Chris Collinsworth.
We need to get Ron. We need to get Ron on for an episode. Ron for an episode.
We do. I think I think that this season, especially, we should try to do a lot of content with a lot of players. Like really have fun with this, man.
And he can then tell me how to pronounce his last name better, so we can get it right. And hopefully it'll be halfway through the season when he has like a sub 3 ERA as a Yankee, 30% strikeout rate, and he's just dealing out of the bullpen.
Hasn't lost a game yet because I know everyone loves wins losses for pitchers for no reason.
And wins and losses are really like the only thing that matters, right? Want to point out known better starter than Jacob deGrom, Chris Flexen, 14 wins. That's more than Jacob deGrom, so And of course,
Jacob deGrom, dude, he's gonna be a Yankee next year. By the way, that's why we're not signing anyone. That's why he's opting out to come over to play with Cole.
See, Cashman and Hal don't give out long commitments that much, but short-term commitments, man.
That's what I'm saying. Jacob deGrom comes over on a 3-year, $200 million deal. We're gonna love it.
Yep.
Because that's the thing. With all these high AAV deals being signed for short-term, what the hell is the ceiling for Jacob deGrom? If he goes out there this year and pitches and is healthy, because when he pitched last year, he wasn't healthy, as you know. But when he pitched last year, he had like a sub 2 ERA. So, like, if he goes out there and does that again, but like across the whole season, Jacob deGrom could easily get $60 million a season.
Yeah, and
like he could be making more himself than like 6 teams in the league.
Oh no, for sure.
And I think that's hilarious. I love it. I love that for him. I don't love it for baseball, but I just think it's crazy.
Frank, we got to see some more money's being spent, but that's I think we've talked about as much as we could talk about.
I think that should be a wrap. This is like an hour, 20-minute episode.
This is a good episode, though. It's a really good episode.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Yeah,
about
I'm
this
pumped
season.
too. So
Fireside Yankees is gonna be the shit, dude. We're gonna be talking Yanks level. We're gonna have Jake on. We're gonna have Jake and Jimmy on, and they're gonna both be like, you know what? Love what you did with it. And we're like, that's what I'm saying.
And that'll be and so we're just what we're gonna do. I think it'd be a good idea if we get the guest list of guys we want to bring on, and we just that'd be good.
Chris Collinsworth at the top of the list.
Yeah, of course. And we get him to say
for no reason.
We get him to.
Now here's a guy. That's all we. All right, thanks, Chris. That's it, and then cut him off.
We're getting Joe Buck and just mute him for the entire podcast.
Dude, I would love it. Joe Buck, he's just like sitting in the corner, like making like the classic expressions and doing his like little like mannerisms there, and then he's just muted. Like, thanks, Joe.
Thank you for your input, Joe.
And lead him to believe that like it's like all on his end. Joe, we can't hear you. We can't hear you, Joe. All right.
Oh my god. The blooper reels, man. All right. But that'll be a wrap on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. You know where to follow me at Ryan Garcia ESM. Nick, why don't you plug your Twitter in as well?
Yeah, my Twitter, I just started it. So my Twitter is NickN_MMA MLB. I need to create a new Twitter. I'm gonna try to get going here. Twitter is hard to start up, but it's no Ryan Garcia ESM in the lab, baby.
We're just always in the lab. Like someone's like, oh, the Yankees have had a good offseason. Are you like not gonna be in the lab anymore? No, we're always in the lab, all right? We're always
in the lab.
Always on the spreadsheets, always in the lab. We're
always got to be pushing the numbers, baby.
Last year, because the Yankees were like not spending. I got so desperate. I was just tweeting like Jed Duroko, like a maniac, for like 2 weeks. Like you could find at least 8 or 9 Jed tweets.
Oh Lord, dude.
Yeah, like I could narrative ball for any man. Like the amount of Isiah Kiner-Falefa tweets when he hits a ball 90 miles per hour. By the way, Isiah Kiner-Falefa hit all of his balls at least 92 miles per hour yesterday.
Yeah. It was really good.
Batting stance.
And a lot of them were sweet spot hits too. Like they were like good contact. They weren't like underneath it. They were like good contact. I'm telling you, dude, don't be surprised when Isiah Kiner-Falefa ends this season with a 285 batting average, less than 12% K percentage, and about 3.5 4 WAR. And everyone's like, wait a minute, I've seen this before. You know why? Because it's fucking Nicky Lopez. He is literally Nicky Lopez. People need to accept that Isiah Kiner-Falefa is probably going to be our shortstop every day. I want Story, not going to happen. I want Story, not going to happen. But
we're going to rally around our guy.
I'm fine with IKF, dude. Even if he OPS is 680, because it's not because it's like, oh, he can't hit. It's because he just can't hit for power. So if he bats 285 and has 4 WAR, everyone's going to love Isiah Kiner-Falefa. People are already starting to come around on him.
Yeah. So just to recap, remember guys, Josh Donaldson's putting up MVP this year.
Damn right.
On the IKF bandwagon, and Ron Mauricio
could be the man.
Wes Nesky, that's a guy right there. Jordan Montgomery is the definition of Himothy. He's Andy Pettit reincarnated.
That'd be the man. Oh, I love it.
Andy Pettit cut off had a piece of his hair fall off on the Yankee Stadium. Right before Old Yankee Stadium before was taken down, and Montgomery was created.
He picked up some of the dirt in his hand, and as it like fell through, he was thinking to himself like, "This is a new era."
Yeah, while he was getting Tommy John, it just happened. Like they just gave they
I don't know what it is.
A slight Pettit gave him a little bit of his DNA, and so
now
now
that's what I'm saying. Like now he's this year, dude. It's gonna be his year.
Yep,
this year gonna be. And again, we do it every year with Yankees players though. Now as Yankees content creators now, like we want to hype up our guys as much as possible, and we could be very unreasonable and wrong about a lot of things. I've been wrong about Aaron Hicks for now 4 years in a row. Every year, I'm like, Aaron Hicks is going to bounce back. When he plays, he's good. Just doesn't happen. But
it's going to happen though this year. We're going to be that one Yankee podcast that's actually going to like.
That's right about
a lot of Yankee podcasts hate the Yankees. We're going to actually like this team.
That's my thing. Like I like the team. I hate the way people look at the team and are like, hey, we need to have a $300 million payroll or we're not playing baseball.
Let's go Yankees. We're going to like the Yankees here. We're going to be
Yankees baseball's back, man. That's all that matters.
So wait, I think the big resurgence here is not just the guys on the field. It's Yankee fans. It's Yankee fan resurgence time or resurgence bandwagon.
Everyone get back out there. Get excited.
Yes.
Support the team. Yankees. This is a really good team. We'll probably have another episode out in a couple of days talking about the newest Yankee Trevor Story. So
and Frankie Montas, of course.
And Frankie Montas.
Yep.
And of course, since we're being, the Yankees dreamers, Sean Murphy would be great.
Yep. So that'll wrap it up, guys. Oh, Laureano, that'd be a good one.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about more next couple of episodes, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. So thank you guys for listening. This is like the third time we're like, oh, we're gonna leave now.
But this can't stop talking.
yeah, there's a lot to talk about. But we'll cut you guys short there. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you guys check us out. All links will be in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next video. See y'all.
Listen close, what is this? Is it heartbreak? Is it truly what it feels like? What it sound like? When it's truly got a sharp teeth in the chest, cancel all in the press of the beat and the bruise. Feeling like a pawn to the degree that he's smooth, but I never been a piece of the evil in the room. And he's trick. This is what they mask, I presume. I'm just telling if I got a load, I swear I resume.